It may not solve what financial problems they have at 18, but it's definitely avoiding a new one. What's up, everyone? Today I wanted to talk about this article I found in Bloomberg Businessweek called Why U.S. Men Think College Isn't Worth It Anymore by Francesca Maglione. Now, I've said before in past videos about what I think about college, but to reiterate here, it's not the worst idea in the world. It's actually necessary for being a doctor, a lawyer, or something that actually requires the education for good reason. It isn't just trying to push people through the system or just taking up space, as my grandfather put it. Anyway, let's get into the article. The tagline: Rising tuition, the spread of more traditional ideas of masculinity on social media, and a desire for an immediate income are working together to set boys on a different path. Kate and Yuka's dad didn't go to college. His uncle didn't either. And they both have jobs. Oh my god, you can actually get a job without the expensive piece of paper? Of his male friends, Yuka doesn't think a single one is enrolling in a 4-year program next year when they graduate from high school in Madison, Ohio, 45 minutes east of Cleveland near Lake Erie. Yuka himself considered continuing his education only once, when he briefly mulled whether a degree could fast-track a firefighting career, but he quickly quashed that idea when he realized it would have contributed debt, not income, to his paltry teenage balance sheet. With college off his radar, Yuka, 18, has instead lined up a full-time job at an automotive collision and restyling shop, where he says he'll be making a pretty penny, $15 an hour. He's already saving up to buy his dream car, a 2013 Scion FRS. Wow, this guy actually thought about his future instead of just going with the flow or anything like that. Now, I wonder if he was forced to apply for college during class hours like I was, and what he did, whether he just applied for the sake of appearances or if he had the nerve to refuse, because I honestly sometimes wish I'd been like, I'm not planning to go to college. I don't want to get into debt, so I am not going to do this. Okay, realistically, I probably would have just done it for show. Like my confirmation. I vocally objected to going through the whole process of religious classes between First Communion and, well, I think I forget when I started to actually raise objections. I think middle school, really, because that's when they moved it from the Sunday afternoons, well, mornings, to Wednesday night. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I have done the math already, and I will be making upwards of $1,000 every other week, which is not bad fresh out of high school, he says, before returning to pulling dents out of a white Chrysler at a career technical school, where he's been taking afternoon classes on collision repair. College seems like a lot of money, he says, when I can get the same education for free. Yeah, a lot of knowledge that used to be confined to colleges. I could literally Google right now if I wanted to. Like, I can look up the concepts. Sure, you're paying for a teacher to, I guess, hold you accountable with tests and such. But other than that, if you really have a will, there is a way. Does Yuka know anyone with college under their belt? Sure, his mom enrolled, and so did his two aunts. I'm starting to see a pattern here with who went to college and who didn't. Comment down below if you see the pattern too. Even his girlfriend is planning to continue her education to study nursing. Okay, that one actually should have some kind of college education required, or at least more serious training. Like, that might actually be worth going into debt for. I don't know. You comment down below if you have a better idea of what a nurse usually makes and whether it would be manageable to pay it off within a reasonable amount of time. But no, men. Wow, there was a pattern. That's the pattern. It's a trend playing out across the US. Students ending school after 12th grade are mostly boys, but perhaps nowhere is the sharp drop in male enrollment more apparent than here in Lake County. And there's Caden here, the subject of the story in question. Well, you got to admit, he's dedicated to his work. In this corner of the Midwest, where the median household income is 78K, and the largest city is 47,000 strong Mentor, the share of men aged 18 to 24 enrolled in college dropped by more than 15 percentage points in the decade through 2023, the biggest decline in any large county in the US. The average slide, by comparison, was about 3 percentage points. In 2013, half of the young men in Lake County were enrolled in college. 10 years later, that number was only 1 in 3, according to a Bloomberg Businessweek analysis of U.S. Census Bureau data. Men opting out of college isn't a new phenomenon. Women have outnumbered men in undergraduate enrollment for about 40 years, and the gap continues to widen. Almost half of women aged 25 to 34 have earned a bachelor's degree, according to Pew Research Center data. For men, the rate is 37%. Between 2011 and 2022, the number of Americans attending college dropped by 1.2 million, with men accounting for almost the entirety of that drop. As U.S. men forego higher education, the demographic group as a whole has lost ground in other areas too. Working class men today are less likely to be employed than they were 4 decades ago. Their inflation adjusted wages have barely budged in more than 50 years. They're less prone to get married or have children, and an increasing number report having no close friends. Men are also 4 times more likely than women to die by self-deletion. I had to edit that part for YouTube. Data show that men aged 18 to 30 spent an average of 6.6 non-sleeping hours alone each day in 2023, 18% more than they did in 2019 and over an hour more than women did, according to a report by the Aspen Economic Strategy Group. Yeah, I happen to actually fit some of these, even though I did go to college. Less prone to get married or have children, and increasing number report having no close friends. I have never even kissed a woman, so I don't see marriage happening for me. Honestly, nah, I'm gonna level with you. I'm not inclined to get married under the legal definition, especially because a wedding that a hypothetical girlfriend turned fiance at that point would want there to be alcohol present, and that is my veto. Like, if I get one veto on something like that, there cannot be alcohol available or brought in. It is a hill I am willing to die on. If I have to choose between no wedding and actually ending up being broken up with, actually, I would probably break up with her first if she didn't understand that boundary in the first place. Well, at least I don't have to worry about getting that far with a woman who disagrees with me on alcohol because I was actually thinking about that speed dating I've mentioned in the live streams. I actually think it's a great way to filter out women that I wouldn't want to date just by how they're drinking or not drinking. If they have an alcoholic beverage, well, that rules her out. But if but if she has a non-alcoholic beverage, I might have to try to figure out whether she's just doing that because she has to drive home and otherwise drinks alcohol in other contexts, or if she's committed to not drinking alcohol and impairing her judgment. So yeah, I don't see that happening for myself anyway. There's also the whole divorce court issue, but we'll talk about that another time. As for having children, if you've watched my past videos, you know that I have no intention of having kids. In fact, I have seriously considered just getting a vasectomy. I looked it up. My insurance would cover it. Well, we'd have to see it play out. Or I'd have to probably consult first. Don't quote me on the earlier part. As for no close friends, this is where I'm a little different here. Sorry, my leg is falling asleep, so if you hear some thudding, now you know why. Yeah, I actually went to a birthday dinner with three of my friends plus two of the birthday man's other friends. So I have close friends. I text back and forth with them quite a bit, and I see them in person every now and then. You know, My friend actually said that one of the new friends was from Bumble BFF, which apparently in the Boston area works for finding male friends. That's worth trying out at the very least. I'm not inclined to, let's just say, I'm not inclined to invite in anyone new who disagrees with my stance against alcohol and other substances. I mean, as long as they don't do it around me, that's ultimately, I can't really control for that. Or if it's something that they put together, like my friend's birthday dinner, I had to remember it's not my party, not my rules. I can either just come along for the ride and choose not to drink myself, or I'm gonna have to just not go. I made my choice to just go along for the ride and not drink because it was my friend's birthday dinner, and although I fundamentally disagree with drinking being present, I respect his wishes for that. More importantly, I respect that he has never tried to make me drink or pressure me. Neither have any of the other friends. I have good friends. Wow, my leg is really falling asleep. Just have to wiggle my toes so that I know that it's nothing too bad. Anyway, Cleveland State University. Did they choose an empty picture of it on purpose? I can't zoom in. There's just a lone figure there. Probably the janitor. Those widening gaps have spurred countless think pieces on the way the US has failed its struggling men and boys. Not all of that gulf can be attributed to higher education, but it's surely a factor. Men with a college degree or higher still earn roughly 200% of what men without a diploma do, census data shows. Money can't buy happiness, but it sure helps with financial stability. My abnormal psychology teacher from college would wholeheartedly agree with that. That money doesn't buy happiness. The Beatles are right on that, so money isn't going to buy the same happiness I get from seeing my friends, but it does enable us to do things like go out to the restaurant that we went out to for that one friend's birthday. I mean, there's an Ashley Embers video I want to rewatch about how. Sorry, I ate a big lunch, so if I seem a little drowsy, now you know why, but it's about social lives being pay to play, meaning there's very little low cost or free options for going out. Like, for example, it's $48 for a ticket to the speed dating event I mentioned earlier. Whereas, yeah, I can't really think of anything cheap or low cost beyond walking out my door and walking up to one of the friends who lives within walking distance, is all I'm going to say, and just walking around the neighborhood with him. You know what? I should probably do that. I'll see if he's interested. But yeah, not everyone has the luxury of that. And for the sake of being able to do something more than just that, I can't really think of anything cheaper. If you have any ideas, you let me know in the comments down below. The cheapest thing I can think of is going to the Blue Hills and hiking. It would only cost the cost of an Uber ride. Oh, one more thing I just wanted to say about this paragraph. They may earn 200% of what men without a diploma do, but the question is, are they in 200% more debt than men who didn't go to college? Well, it can vary, but for the most part, I would expect that they're probably in 200% more debt than men who didn't go to college. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. Why then are so many boys opting out? Many cite exorbitant costs. At the Ivy League schools, the sticker price is almost $100,000 a year, and even a public in-state education will set a student back about $25,000 annually, College Board data show. Those costs also disadvantage lower-income women and girls, but it's boys and men who are more often taught, concise, consciously or not, the value of starting to collect a paycheck as soon as possible. There you go. They want to collect a paycheck as soon as possible. Men like what was his name again? Men like Caden Yuka are actually running the numbers rather than just blindly trusting the guidance counselors, the teachers, the parents who don't quite get it. You get the idea. That's the case in teacher Rita Soder's internship class at Perry High School in Lake County, where only one or two of the four senior boys plan to attend college. Others are gunning to begin a career aiming to get a jump start on building wealth while dodging student loans. You see a lot of influencers saying you don't need to go to college, and when people see that, they listen. I know I haven't quite earned the rank of influencer just yet, but if I can influence you on the college thing, I'm not saying to go to college or not to go to college. I am simply saying if you do go to college, okay, I am saying don't go to college if you don't have a plan. Because as I said in previous videos, undecided should not be a choice for a major. Either you go in with the plan, and if you get loans with a plan to pay them back starting right after graduation, or you go do something else and then you go to college if you realize you need to do it to work the job you want to work, nursing school, doctor, lawyer, anything that both requires a degree and it makes sense to require that someone go through all the education and training in the first place, then it makes sense. But otherwise, if you don't know what you want to do, don't go to college. As my abnormal psychology teacher said about opioids, and I said about alcohol, tobacco, basically any other drugs, stay the hell away from it. It will be very difficult, if not borderline impossible, to financially recover. Run the numbers like Caden did. He seems to know what he's doing. I mean, he may be 10 years younger than me, but he's like 10 years smarter than me, too, at that age. Well, at least when I was that age. When I was that age, I just decided to take up space so everyone would shut up about college. Oh, wow! There's nothing wrong with getting a blue-collar job, Soder is quick to point out. She just wants students to be aware of their options, whether that includes a four-year degree or not. Uh, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. You always treat blue-collar work like it's something to be feared. If it's not from shows like Cobra Kai or movies and that I can't think of any specifics off the top of my head, but you know what I'm talking about. Blue collar work always gets depicted as something that you don't want to end up in, and everyone just tries pushing them towards college instead of letting them figure it out. I mean, I'm okay with them knowing that a four-year degree is an option, but they need to know all the pros and the cons and whether it's actually necessary or not. Her school, for instance, is working with colleges in the area to turn some of the classrooms left empty because of dwindling enrollment into labs where students can take classes towards careers in welding, nursing, or other fields. At Mentor High School, the biggest in the county, more than 40% of the juniors and seniors are taking at least some career tech courses, such as automotive or public safety. That is a way better use of those classrooms than just whatever filler courses they were trying to burden you with if it's a liberal arts school. If young men in Lake County aren't enrolling in college, it's by collective design, says Joseph Glavin, the director of workforce development at Mentor Schools in Lakeland Community College. What we have seen is, based on the demand of students, families, and employers, they are looking for more direct workforce options. You mean like experience instead of education that doesn't synchronize with experience and that employers don't want to use as a substitution for experience if it can be substituted for experience? There's wisdom to that plan, especially in a county with a significant blue collar population. Large swaths of the country have transitioned away from manufacturing, something President Donald Trump is angling to reverse with his second trade war. But Lake County is holding on, or at least trying to. It's still home to hundreds of active fabricators and factories. Ohio is third in the nation in total manufacturing employees, just behind Texas and California. But some male students appear to be heading down that path on little more than vibes. I hear a lot online about people saying in the trades you'll earn money while you're training, and there's more guarantee, so it makes it seem safer, says one of the students in Soder's class, who asked not to be named. He isn't the only person collecting insights and advice from strangers on the internet. Honestly, everything I say here as a stranger on the internet to you is Make sure you know what you're doing and don't go in without a plan. Now that you know that, the choice is yours. If you're an 18-year-old who's still trying to decide whether to go to college or not, you are legally an adult. You are free to make your own choices. Don't let the schools or the parents tell you what you should do just because. Hear me out on the my experience that going to college without a plan or not committed to what your plan is a terrible idea. But if you're willing to commit to something and you have a clear-cut plan, I see no problem with it. Just make sure that you either don't take out loans and go into debt, or if you do, you make a plan to start paying them back right away. Because as we've seen with Trump ending the moratorium on student loan repayments, pauses like that don't last forever, and the people kind of committed to the obligations of that loan, so they have to see it through. Almost 20% of boys aged 13 to 17 say they use YouTube almost constantly, according to a Pew Research study. Online, the argument against college has never been stronger, especially among supporters of Trump, a University of Pennsylvania graduate, who's claimed that colleges are indoctrinating students. He graduated from college because he was rich. He was able to afford to go. Not to mention, back in his day, he would have graduated, what, 46, 56, 66, 67, 68. He would have graduated at the age of 22 in 1968. Not only would his family have had the money to pay for it all, it actually provided some value at the time. I actually went past a billboard for my alma mater last night that said something that said that they guarantee you a job right after graduation. I thought to myself, what a fucking joke. Similar messaging has come from activists such as Charlie Kirk, who traveled to more than 2 dozen colleges before the 2024 election on what he called the "You're Being Brainwashed" tour to try to get more members of Generation Z to cast a vote for Trump. Almost one-third of US adults say they have little or no confidence in higher education, according to a Gallup poll conducted in June 2024, before Trump's latest tirades against academia. In 2020, 41% of young men aged 18 to 29 voted for Trump. That number jumped to 56% in the 2024 election. Yeah, I think the problem is not college itself. Yes, they have a very openly leftist bias. I'm not going to pretend that's not there. That's why the likes of Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk say that they're brainwashing the 18 to 22-year-olds and anyone older who happens to be attending. Like Gerber Johnson said, they also monopolized socialization for young people because there really isn't much else chance to be around other people between the ages of 18 and 22. My mom and I were driving through Boston and Cambridge to get to the Museum of Science last night. We went past Boston University, and the sidewalks were filled with 18 to 22-year-olds. It was a Tuesday late afternoon, about 3:30 p.m., so probably going between classes or something. But still, it's a whole thing. I forgot where I was trying to go with this. Oh yeah, it's about the lack of confidence. Yeah, a decent number of people are not feeling confident in academia because they're getting into way too much debt for jobs that pay way too little. For jobs that you could have learned how to do without getting that very specific degree. That kind of pigeonholes you into it, like forces you to specialize. Now, I'm still of the belief that you can reinvent yourself later in life. I mean, Chuck Norris went from being a karate champion to an actor. It can be done. You know what? I'm going to re listen to the audiobook of his autobiography because that's a really great story. But I really need to finish reading this article. I think social media is a big factor, another student from Perry High School says when asked how boys like him are making post high school choices. You see a lot of influencers saying you don't need to go to college. And when people see that, they listen. Plenty of men nearby have made similar choices, including George Wilson, 50, who opted for a job over a degree when he graduated from an Ohio's high school more than 3 decades ago. He briefly enrolled as an undergrad, then transferred to a different school, then ultimately dropped out. Mentally, I wasn't ready for it, he says. I didn't see the benefit of it at the time, and I just continued to work. I wanted a regular, steady job where I could make money. Don't we all? I mean, even if we don't particularly like the work, we all want something more in line with that. He spent his career manufacturing blades for an airplane turbine engines at Precision Cast Parts Corp in Mentor. Today, he operates a robot there on the overnight shift. Trade work has been good to him, he says. His wife was able to get 2 degrees, and his job allowed him to be a hands-on father. Both of his daughters went to college. His son went into the military. Still, successes aside, he recently decided he wanted to go to college after all, decades after his first attempt. Wow, sounds like me with karate. So he enrolled at Lakeland Community College for an associate degree, then switched to Cleveland State University, where he is pursuing a degree in organizational leadership. He says he wants to become a teacher, something that would come as a surprise to his younger self. I didn't realize that I would like learning, he says, and I would like education. Returning Gen X students such as Wilson won't be enough to keep higher ed afloat. When Jennifer Schuler became president in 2023 of Lake Erie College, the only 4-year college in Lake County, the drop in enrollment was palpable. She inherited a $5.6 million deficit. In the previous decade, the student body, which is majority men, had decreased by almost 20%. It was hurting our bottom line, she says. She has made staff and program cuts to bring down the shortfall, while doubling her efforts to retain current students. The football team was a particular problem. Its yearly retention rate was only 46% in the 2023-24 academic year. Recognizing that positive relationships and mentoring can work wonders for struggling students, she quickly hired a new coach. She tapped Tiffin University's David Price, a charismatic figure who starts asking students important questions. What's their home life like? Are they prepared to be a student athlete? Do they value getting a degree as early as the application process? That makes a point to keep listening. Our program requires every single person that comes into the fold to be bigger than football, he says. Football is an avenue, but our program is based around building a culture and mentoring these young men into men. Despite building those bonds early, every semester he has to have a conversation with at least one student who's considering dropping out. But the overall result has been positive. The team's retention rate has jumped to 85% in only 1 year. There's so many things that are driving young men out of college, says Price as he sits in the dining hall, breaking every few minutes to greet a passing student. I think that a lot of society as a whole has been focused on immediate gratification rather than looking at the whole picture. Liz Brainerd, the advisory director for the Lake Geogga Educational Assistance Foundation, a nonprofit that helps students determine their next steps after high school, says she noticed in the past couple of years that more of the male students opting out of college are the ones with high GPAs and excellent track records. Probably because they ran the numbers and actually sat down and thought about it rather than just being like the clone troopers from Star Wars with good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. Their main reason? They're bored, she says. Brainerd is supportive of students who want to go into the trades, but she worries some are doing it for the wrong reasons. I just don't want students to think this is a solution to my boredom, or this is going to solve all my financial problems, or this is the easier path, she says. I worry about those students. I just want to say in response to the financial problems thing, not only is it may not solve what financial problems they have at 18, but it's definitely avoiding a new one. As for the boredom or easier path, hey, if they're 18 or older, they are legally adults and they can make their own choices. I mean, what are you going to say next? That they shouldn't vote just because they happen to have that, make that choice not to go to college? Oh, they're 18. Society collectively agreed. They can make their own decisions and they're allowed to vote. They also have the responsibility of being drafted if, God forbid, the draft were ever to come up. But yeah, if we agree that 18 is the age of majority and you're allowed to make your own decisions and you're allowed to vote, then I don't see what the problem is with them making their choices. Jaden Owens, for one, celebrated the end of his schooling. The 19-year-old who graduated from Mentor High School last year says he and his male friends just wanted to get after it once they graduated, meaning start earning the money that would make them feel like adults. College takes longer. I don't necessarily want to be in school for that long. I had enough of that in high school, Owens says before heading into class at the Career Tech Center. When I got out, I was like, Yeah, we're done! She is now working at a private ambulance company and training to be a paramedic. It brings in money and helps him feel like a man, something that's important to him after growing up without anyone to show him the masculine stuff to do. His father was out of the picture. You want to learn, you want to protect, you want to provide, Owen says. For males, they are going into these type of fields because it forces you to be masculine. It's a respectable choice. Yeah, that might be what's getting some of the younger men into the trades and maybe some of the older ones who went to college and then ended up not doing anything relevant to their degree or actually struggling to find work because of it. Like me. No, I'm not considering going into the trades at this moment in time. But you never know, maybe it would be worth looking into. Well, what do you think? I know I went on for over 45 minutes talking about all this, reading the article and giving my 2 cents, so give me your 2 cents. What do you think of more men choosing to skip college and go right into the workforce? And then after that, be sure to give this video a like. Show it a little love. Subscribe for daily videos, and I'll see you soon.